In this video, I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite Filipino dishes, and that's lumpia. What's good, everyone? If this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Philip Lemoine, and on this channel I plan to post a ton of cooking videos, sharing some of my favorite recipes like I'm doing today. If that sounds like something you're into, consider subscribing right now. So growing up half Filipino and half white, I kind of got the best of both worlds. My mom made amazing Filipino food, and she also cooked all of the American food that my dad wanted to eat. So I kind of grew up eating a little bit of both. One of my all-time favorite dishes, though, has always been my mom's lumpia. I love lumpia so much that I almost started my own lumpia company. I was gonna call it Lumpia Lab, and I was basically gonna bastardize lumpia by filling it with all these crazy fillings and put it in some sort of boutique hipster pop-up shop. One of my favorite lumpias was a traditional one that I was gonna call the Auntie Arlene, and it's basically named after my mom, and that's what we're gonna make here today. The Auntie Arlene lumpia is a spin on my mom's recipe, and it's basically a combination of pork, beef, has some carrots, onions, and garlic, and a few other things to pretty much mix it up and bind it all together. In the description of this video, I have a full list of all the ingredients I plan to use in this recipe. So I already prepped the ingredients by weighing them out. The next thing I'm gonna do is pretty much throw it into a food processor and blend it all up. Also, please don't judge me, but we are using all these old poke containers to hold our ingredients. I'm gonna do the carrots first, and the way I kind of usually do this is I'll do the carrots and the garlic at the same time. It's all gonna get mixed up anyway, so pretty much I'm just gonna throw it all in. And pretty much we're gonna just grind it up till it's really fine, small little pieces. So this right here is about the consistency that you're looking for the shredded carrots or minced carrots. Just gonna transfer it all into this container. So in this bowl, I already have 2 pounds of ground pork and 2 pounds of ground beef. This ground beef is an 80-20 blend. I would highly recommend going with the 80-20 because if you go with something more lean, I feel like the lumpia comes out dry. So I think this is probably the best mix for beef and pork. So to that, add in the carrots. And then we have our onions. I'm also gonna put in the soy sauce that I pre-measured. The soy sauce that I'm using is actually a lower sodium soy sauce. I'm using this brand here. Make sure it's not like that really dark, thick soy sauce. Use a soy sauce that you would put like on top of rice or something like that. If you go with a dark soy sauce, it's gonna be really salty. I end up going with a lower salt soy sauce, and then I plan to season everything afterwards with salt. I personally like my food a little, I don't wanna say salty, but I like it having flavor. If you are sensitive to salt, then maybe don't put any salt and you can just stick with the soy sauce. I have 1 tablespoon of ground pepper, and then I'm also gonna do 2 eggs, which I need to grab. 1, 2, and then to that I'm gonna add, maybe, I'm gonna say 2, and I will go 3 large pinches of salt. I think the weird thing about lumpia is you can't really taste it until it's cooked. So I always say you can always add more seasoning after, but if you season it out too much before, you're kind of stuck with it. And then we pretty much just mix it all up. So usually right before I start even making the filling, what I'll do is I'll go and put the lumpia wrappers out, that way they'll defrost. And usually around the time that the filling is done, I can start peeling the lumpia wrappers, which I'm gonna do next. So now that I got this all mixed up, I'm pretty much just gonna throw it in the fridge and let it sit in there while I peel all these lumpia wrappers. The lumpia wrappers that my mom uses and the ones that they just so happen to sell here in Hawaii are this brand here. I'll show you the technique to peeling these. Basically, what I do is I give them a good fold first, kind of flex them, get them going. I personally like to just go straight down the middle or whatever and just peel them in half. And then from there, what I'll do is go one at a time. If you tear one like this, just try and be careful and finish it the rest of the way. You could still use it, you'll just roll it from the other side. Just want to make sure that they're fully defrosted. That way they're not still frozen sticking together. Now that the lumpia wrappers are peeled, I'm pretty much gonna show you how I wrap the lumpia. I just cleaned this area, by the way. The way that I actually like to do it is a more traditional way. So what you would do is you would lay your lumpia wrapper like a diamond like this. And then I have this 1 fluid ounce ice cream scooper. And pretty much I'll put this right here towards the middle. And then you just kind of spread it out like this. And then this part here will fold over. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of roll it back like this a little bit. This goes over here. This side goes over here. And then this is what my mom calls the glue. This is basically an egg mixed with a little bit of water. And you just pretty much just put a little bit of glue. And then just wrap it up. And there it is, a lumpia. So I pretty much put them all on a sheet pan. And what I'm gonna do is just go through and wrap as many as I can and fit them all into the sheet pan. And then what I like to do is par freeze them, or I'll freeze them all separately. If you were to put them all into like a bag or wrap them in foil before freezing them, after they're frozen, they're gonna be all stuck together. So it's better to par freeze them separately, and then that way, when you put them in the bag and wanna just grab a few out when you wanna cook some, they're not all stuck together. Basically gonna just roll out as many as I can, and I'll show you how I do it. Once I've pretty much finished a sheet, I'm gonna throw this into the freezer, and then I'm gonna try and finish up all the rest of this lumpia, and then freeze all that overnight. And then tomorrow what we'll do is I'll show you how I package them, and then also how I cook the lumpia. So stay tuned for that. So it's been a day since we made the lumpia, and because we've par froze them, so you should easily be able to pull them apart like this. Normally after we freeze the lumpia, what I'll usually do is just package them up in like packs of 10 or whatever and give them out to my friends or family. For about the past 2 years, we've been trying to use a lot less plastic, especially single-use plastic. Unfortunately, a lot of the things that we still enjoy eating come wrapped in plastic. This is a good example. We really like these pot stickers. They just happen to come in this plastic. Because we no longer use plastic bags for our trash, any plastic bag that we get our hands on is like gold to us. So we'll hold on to it just in case we need to throw anything away that's liquid or wet. In this case, store anything that we want to put like in the freezer. You can also wrap them in foil. I used to food saver package them into little packets so they would keep them like packed and no air. But these are gonna go pretty quick, so I'm not too worried about them getting frostbite. So I'm gonna pack most of these in here now, and then I'll leave a few out, and we'll cook some, and I'll show you how I do that next. I'm gonna get super nerdy technical on how I fry my lumpia, but realistically, you just need to deep fry it until it's golden brown. I like using a saucepan instead of a frying pan, mainly because I don't have to use as much oil to do a deep fry with the lumpia. I'll put the saucepan at the stove at medium heat until it comes up to about 375 degrees. I have this cool little thermometer that I like to use. Basically, I'll put that into the oil and wait for it to come up to temperature. Once the oil's at temperature, 375, I'm gonna go ahead and drop in a few pieces of the lumpia, and that temperature is gonna quickly drop back down. I'll keep the stove at about 6, and then once it comes back up to temperature around the 350, I'll go ahead and drop that down to 4, about a low medium heat. The reason being is because the temperature of the oil is going to continue to rise if I don't. And when I go to cook the next batch of lumpia, that oil is going to be at about 450 degrees, and then those will burn, or those will cook a lot quicker, and the insides won't be fully cooked. So you just go ahead and cook the lumpia till it's to a nice golden brown and just flip them over. You should only have to flip them once or twice. If your pan is really shallow or you don't have a lot of oil where it can float, you'll get a little bit of browning or dark browning on the lumpia because it's touching the bottom of the pan. Just deep fry it until it's golden brown. You can use this thermometer that I have too to check the inside of the lumpia to see what the internal temperature is. I think pork is around 145 where it's considered safe to eat. If your lumpia is at around 130 already, you can go ahead and pull them out. It's gonna carry over to the 140s, even 150s real quick. So once you check it, as long as it's past 120, I'm pretty sure it's safe to eat. And like I said, once you take them out of the fryer, they're still gonna continue to cook. So just leave them and let them rest, and I'm sure that'll carry over into well over past what is considered safe to eat. One thing you wanna make sure not to do is overcrowd the pot with too much lumpia. It's not gonna cook evenly, or it's really gonna drop the temperature. You also wanna make sure the oil is at temperature when you put them in, because if it's not, the lumpia will basically start unraveling. So when you drop it in there, you want it to pretty much crisp up real quick, but not get golden brown too fast either. Once the lumpia is done, pretty much you just wanna put them on a plate. I usually put them on a rack, fresh out of the oil. That way they don't soak up a lot of their oil and get soggy. I have this sweet and sour sauce that we use for all of our lumpia. This is my favorite. This is what my mom uses, so this is what I use. I'm just gonna put a little bit of this into another little bowl. My mom always says you don't need to put a lot, you can always add more, but you can't put it back in the jar after you poured it. And there it is, guys. The spin on my mother's recipe, the Auntie Arlene, my favorite lumpia. I think in the future I'll post up a few other videos of some other lumpia creations that I've made. I know one of my favorites that was really popular with a lot of my friends was our chicken pot pie lumpia. We also have a macaroni and cheese lumpia with a tomato bisque dip. You really could just put anything into lumpia and fry it up, and it's probably gonna come out great. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. I plan on making a ton more videos just like it. Thanks again so much for watching, guys. Baby, you want some lumpia? Not for me.